What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the GGBL. The postseason is officially done. The Swamp Monsters are your champions, winning 4-3. So Richmond actually came back from down 3-1 to get this thing to Game 7. But unfortunately, Alexei Shevchuk pitched really well. I think it just was a timely hitting by Washington, and they clinched it. So, yeah, congratulations yet again to the Swamp Monsters. Looking forward to season number 2. Now, guys, for those of you that were playing in the Fantasy Challenge for the playoffs, I am putting together all of these players' statistics with help from a channel member and a patron. So we've got some help there, but all of the statistics here, errors, stolen bases, walks, triples, doubles, we're gonna compile all that stuff into a spreadsheet, and we're gonna determine which of you guys won the playoff fantasy challenge. Of course, there's prizes for that, and should be fun to tabulate those results. So, guys, let's go ahead and get into the off season here. I've got a couple things to talk about and how the off season is going to run. We're actually not going to do anything official for the off season quite yet. I'm just really just talking to you guys how this whole thing is going to work. Let's talk real quick about the staff. So, Brandon Hyde, even though he won a Gold Series, I'm going to let him go. He's going to get fired. We do have some manager openings, but Dave Roberts, pretty notable managers like Derek Shelton and Craig Counsell, David Bell. I got tired of seeing those guys walk out to the mound and relieving the pitcher. It just got kind of annoying. Or seeing them in the dugout, shaking their head, being disappointed, or high-fiving everybody. We need to get these guys out of the game. They're MLB managers. They're not GGBL managers, right? So we are going to just go ahead and let these guys go and hire guys like Reggie Skinner, for example, an A attribute, 2 speed, 3 stealing. Seems like a good fit there. 36 years old. Seems like a solid manager-esque type player, right? So that's what we're going to do. The third base coaches, pitching coach, all this, even if they're real, it doesn't bother me too much. I'm good with all that. Rebranding teams, there's a couple teams that I'm thinking about possibly doing some uniform tweaks to. But if you guys have any suggestions, let me know in the comment section. If you have a team that you just did not like their look, let me know. If the majority of people say well, I didn't really like Nashville's look, for example, then we can think about making some changes there. But let me know ASAP before I move on from this stage to lose out on the rebrand. Period. We don't want to lose out on that. Looking at some stadiums as well. Possibly could find stadiums for teams that don't have any, stuff like that. All right, so let's talk real quick about exclusive free agent negotiations. So this is a big one. So bear with me here because I do want to explain it because it's going to set the tone for the rest of the offseason. So I need to capture, since I'm managing all 30 teams in this franchise, the CPU does some weird things. Now, there's some people in the corner that say, not the corner, but they're in the corner of saying, let the sim just handle it. Let the CPU do all the free agent negotiations. Don't manually do anything. Just let the CPU handle it, and whatever happens, happens. I get that mentality. I understand it. But what I want to do is I want to get the community involved. So what I don't want to have happen is make this whole thing automated, and then the community has no say. Or then super teams are created, and we got to fight against that when we could have easily done it if we had done it manually. So let's get into how the exclusive free agents is going to work, because this is all going to be done manually. So a guy like Robbie Herzog, I have to capture what the Nashville Heat organization would want to do. And I can't make a decision on my own, because then that is a perceived bias on if that guy signs or if he doesn't. I'm going to get a bunch of comments that say Herzog should have signed, you should have done it, you should have let him go, why did he go to LA, those types of things, right? So in order to do these things, to make sure that we're capturing what the player wants, what the team wants, and maybe those things don't align, taking me out of the equation, we're going to implement a wheel spin process. So for non-custom players that are 80 overall and above, like a guy like Robbie Herzog, he's up for negotiation. And the team could approach him. He could reject the offer, Or he could just say, I just don't even want to talk to you guys. And the team likewise could say, I just don't want to talk to you. We're letting you go. Good luck. We have to capture that somehow, some way. So non-custom players, 80 plus overall and above, they're going to be subjected to a wheel spin. It's going to be a 50-50 shot. Either it's a yes or it's a no. If it's a yes, they get to stay with the team. If it's a no, they get put into the free agent pool. So I think that this is a good way to make sure that every single year the free agent pool is constantly filled up with pretty decent players, right? So this is all for non-custom players. So let me go for an example here for a custom player. So let's talk about Ricky Holberman. He is a custom player. So as we saw with Herzog for Nashville, he's going to be subjected to that wheel spin, yes or no, 50-50 shot. You're either going to stay with your team or you're going to go into the free agent pool. It's a risk, right? But we have to capture the negotiations somehow throughout the season that team was having with that player. Because theoretically, you should know what players are coming up to be released and whatnot. So a guy like Ricky Holberman, he's my guy. He's actually a custom player. So if you guys in this series, in this franchise, if you have, in this league, if you have a custom player, you have full autonomy. You just have to let me know if you want to stay with Boston or if you want to leave. Now, I'm going to make the declaration here, right now, that Ricky Holberman wants out. He's not going to come back to Boston. He's going to elect free agency. He's going to be one of the highly sought-after players across the league. But here's the little kicker. If you have custom players and you say that I want to test free agency, you are then subjected to be signed by all other 29 teams in free agency. You cannot re-sign with Boston, for example. But if you have channel points that you want to spend, it's going to cost you 300 channel points. It's a big number. 300 channel points to then give me a top 5 list of the teams that you want to go join, and then we're going to wheel spin it. So in this, it gives you the chance to watch your player play for teams you want him to play for, but it also avoids teams getting stacked eventually. You know, like the team ups. We're avoiding the Golden State Warriors type thing or the Miami Heat type thing, where you've got 5 customs in the series and they all play for one team and they're just stacked, right? So it's a risk. You're giving it up to chance that you're giving me a list of your top 5. And if he lands on a team that gets you stacked, then good for you. Lady Luck was on your side. If not, you got a 20% chance on each piece of the pie. So that's how that's going to work. But for me, I don't have channel points. So I get to just pick a top 5 at will. And I'll reveal that to you guys in the next video. But so that's how that's all going to work. So non-customs, like a guy like Jared Tobin, he fits in that mold. He's an 80-plus overall player. He gets wheel spun, yes or no. If he's yes, he stays for Vancouver. If he's no, he goes into the free agent pool. Now, guys like this, like 64, I'm going to have to make the call. As a commissioner, I'll make the call if we're going to let him go. Just depends on what like Kansas City's roster is looking like at catcher, I believe it is. No, what is he? What is he? Kansas City, first baseman. So for Salgado, first baseman here, he's 32 years old, 64C. Nobody really behind him that could use any playing time. So we'll probably keep him, right? So these are the kind of things that I'm gonna go through and mental exercise. But a guy like Freddie Foley, I mean, absolutely huge. If Philadelphia is able to keep him, that's big time. They almost made the playoffs in season 1, but to lose a guy like that would be tough for them. Now, do they have other people behind Freddie Foley? They do, actually. Gregorio Gutierrez. Do they believe in Gutierrez? Foley's going to be 35 here next year. And they also got Flint Kennedy coming up the rear. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough call, but I can't make that decision. I don't want to make that decision. I'll let the wheel decide for Freddie Foley. Is he coming back or is he going to FAs? Be an interesting storyline. Brian Ortiz from my Richmond Good Boys. If I were to make the call, I would want to keep him. But I have to balance what the player wants. And the wheel is going to decide that, yes or no, for Brian Ortiz. Tommy Cruz. Lorenz would be a tough one to lose for Colorado. Rich Lugo, I'll make a call. 75 overall. He's not an 80 and above. So these guys that are kind of the role players, I'm going to make the calls on these teams. Like Garth Villa, I'll make a call. Mortero, I'll make the call. Trujillo, I'll make a call. He's just underneath that 80 overall, but I'll still make a decision on him. And Killian Graham, yes or no? He's a non-custom, so he gets subjected to the wheel spin. Marquez, solid catcher. Cameron Moyer, very good catcher, was from Atlanta, remember? New York acquired him. Big bat for the pizzazz. And then we're back to Ricky Holberman here and Jared Tobin. So that's how the exclusive free agent spot is going to work. The phase, how that's going to work. Hope that made sense. Let's go over here to free agency. All right, so just for example, let's head over to free agency. So let's just say that everybody here that we talked about, that we previewed, is going to become a free agent, right? So again, Ricky Holberman has a top 5 list. That's who's going to take him. Once that team takes Ricky Holberman, they're going to be pulled off of the big list. And what I mean by the big list is, again, there's no custom players here in this list here. So we don't have to worry about that, any top 5s or whatever. So basically, just think of Ricky Holberman as X'd out. He's a custom. You just don't even think about him. So a guy like Freddie Foley, I think anybody should want Freddie Foley at this stage, a first baseman that can hit. He's 95 overall, but he's a little older. So what we're going to implement here with the free agent list, again, we're going to stick with that 80 overall, 80 plus overall mentality, that logic. I am going to determine, along with the GGBL moderation group, we're going to determine where does Freddie Foley fit the most, right? What teams, we'll probably come up with a big list of teams. It's not going to be like down to a top 5 or anything like that. What teams really would want to go after Freddie Foley? Considering his age, considering his production, considering the roster makeup, what teams want to go after him? Same thing with Graham, Herzog, Tobin, Ortiz, and Lorenz. So again, 80 plus overall is going to be subjected to moderation team determining what teams, plural, should go after them. At that stage, we'll wheel spin all those guys, and determining where they're going to go is based on the wheel spin. Anybody 78 at this stage, anybody 78, this should be 79 because we're doing the wheel spins we're determining where these teams are supposed to go through 80 plus. So anybody 79 and below, all the way down, we're going to put every single GGBL team on a wheel spin and then determining where they're going to go. We're not going to do this by position because you can see, like, look at the starting pitching. It's a little weak. This class for starting pitching is a little weak from 79 and below. So where a team might spin and get Garth Villa at 76, they could have actually wanted Cameron Moyer at a 77, right? So you kind of get screwed a little bit. So what we're going to do then, at that point, 79 and below, every team's going to get listed except for the teams that took these guys, right? You can't double dip. We don't want them to double dip. I don't want a team to get Holberman and then Marquez, right? I just don't think that that's fair. You have to have a little competitive balance. So again, anybody 79 and below, every team is going to be listed on a wheel spin except for these 80 plus overalls. And then once the list of teams across the GGBL, everyone has signed someone. So there should be 30 players that have signed with a team. Then we're going to put everyone back on the list, even teams that got these guys. We're going to put them all back on the list and spin it again until this free agent group has, pretty much been signed up. Like, a guy like Garbolo, he should probably be signed, a 59A, 57A. So these A potential players probably should get scooped up, is what I'm thinking. So I think that's how we're going to run it. So I think it makes sense. It's an interesting concept, but again, I just want to make sure that we're capturing player decision, player choice, and then, of course, the organization choice. Now, let's say, for example, let's say Richmond, if we end up landing on Ricky Hoberman, we make him an offer. This is the offer that we have to give him. He wants 4 seasons. Okay? That's what he wants. He's going to be 37 years old. I've seen players play well past that, right? But that interest level is pretty minimum, and I think you're cheesing it if that's the offer that we give him. So I'm going to just up this just a little bit more. Actually, you can't up it any more than that. But we do have to make sure that we get Ricky Hoberman. So that's the offer that we're going to make for Ricky. Pretty much a max offer, $35 million a year. That's what he wants. So if you sign a guy, even like Freddie Foley, if you sign a guy, this is the contract you're going to be dealt with, right? The 4 years, Killian Graham wants 2. However many years that these guys want, that's what they're going to get. I'm not in the business of changing the contract years. I can change the contract amount, so the money that they're getting, just to make sure, like if Herzog was in the red, or like let's say he was in the yellow here, I'm going to try to up that into the green in order to make sure that that team gets Robbie Herzog. Same thing like Tobin and whatever they want, that's what they're going to get. 5 years for a closer. Maybe we have to be a little judicious on that too. Like a closer signing a 5-year deal. I don't know. I'm still playing with it. We'll figure it out. But I'm sure you guys are good with a lot of this stuff. I just want to make sure that you guys know how it's going to work. That way there's no questions like, Goldie, why would this team get that guy? Or why would this team get that guy? Blah, blah, blah. Or not get that guy. So that's how free agency is going to work. Now, tendering contracts, I think this is just where I'm going to thrive, making some of these decisions for these guys. There's a lot of talent being lost. A lot of these dudes are on 1-year deals. I got 30 teams to run. I don't really want to get into the business of saying, like, you know, does Alex Humberto want to stay? You know, his contract's renewable. Like, why wouldn't a team want to renew the contract? Because it is going to take us to December 2nd, and if you don't get him to agree, he's gone, right? And plus, I don't want to have way too much player movement, because if you look at this, like look at how many 80 and aboves that there are. You got Clayton Hall, Meyer, Sparks, Royston, Triola, Villalobos, Rico. Like if like that's you're playing a dangerous game at that point. Be a lot of turnover there. You see what I'm saying? Like a lot of 80 plus overall players, just like it's a coin flip, you know? It's yes or no. Are you coming back or not? So with these guys with renewable contracts, I think I'm just going to get those done on my own. Kind of help out the free agent list a little bit more, help the free agent pool get a little bit deeper. You know, we'll see how that all pans out, but yeah, like just if like the majority of these guys, it's still a 50-50 game, yes or no. If the majority of these guys said no, now you're talking about teams like completely losing their identity. You've got a bunch of turnover across the league. I just don't think applying the yes or no thing here for each tender contract is going to make sense. So I'm going to do all these tender contracts and get these guys signed back up, and then we'll go from there. Now, arbitration, I have not developed a system for arbitration. I think, again, I'm just going to make decisions on my own here, at least for Season 1. And then you guys can let me know in the comment section if you think of a better idea. You know, please let me know. But I do want to move through this. I want to get this thing done pretty quickly so we can get into Season 2. But again, if you guys have ideas for arbitration, like a similar system to what we're doing for free agency or exclusive free agents, maybe even we can apply something to tender contracts so that it's not cheesing it. That's the one thing I don't want to do for this series. I don't want to cheese roster construction, you know? So let me know in the comment section if you have ideas on how to get creative and how to balance that player decision an organization decision. Now, the 40-man roster, I'm just going to go ahead and select those myself. I just think that that's the best way to go about it. There's just way too many teams to get the community involved with. So that's how that's going to work. Most of the rosters have been constructed here already with 40 men. So guys, that's it. Leave a like if you like this thing. Let me know what you think about the structure of the offseason. And again, if you have any ideas for arbitration and tendering contracts, creative things, that would be huge. But I think free agency, we're pretty locked down here. Again, custom players get to decide if they want to stay or leave. And if you have channel points to spend them. And then give me a top 5 list. If Richmond takes Hoberman, they get taken off the board and they can't get Freddie Foley. They can't get Lorenz. They can't get Moyer. They can't get Collado. And we're just going to run off the list until all 30 teams have at least one player. And then we'll put everybody back onto the list and see where we go from there. I think, again, once we get into like these 50s, I think it makes sense to like don't screw a team by getting a 59D. Like, get that 59A or 59B. Like, we're going to then prioritize it by potential rating once we get down here into these role player type stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, that's it. Got a lot of work to do here in the next couple days. So, I'll see you in the next one. As always, thanks so much for watching, and peace.